I wanted to wait until everybody was on to tell you guys this. I'm probably going to tear down my garage here in the next few weeks.
We already knew this.
Did I tell you what the neighbor said?
No.
Oh my God.
Okay, so
Nice.
I was talking to the neighbor about it. I'm like, I might tear down the garage. And my neighbor was like, well, what about the podcast?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, once a month I see you guys grab with armfuls of liquor going out to the garage. I see you guys podcast. What are you going to do about that? I'm like, I don't know, right in my basement. She's like, but I'm going to miss seeing you guys with trying to carry all that liquor out to the garage.
Telling you, I knew they watched us.
Yeah.
They knew it. Like every time I walked down your backyard, I was like, there are eyes on me. Welcome to Buried Cinema, where we discuss new and lesser-known films in detail, so there will be spoilers. I'm Tom.
I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
I am Nate.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Kevin.
Well done. Steve, you still sound a little far away.
Is that better?
Yes.
Well,
Much.
she is in New York.
No.
Bad.
No. Bad Nate.
This episode of Buried Cinema is a special episode because it is our 6-year anniversary.
Yay!
Holy shit.
We get to go to podcast kindergarten.
Steve and Nate and I started this podcast. I don't know if it was end of June or beginning of July, but it was around this time in 2010.
Drug-fueled haze.
Early days when we would just film ourselves sitting on a couch for 2 hours and put that on the internet.
The dogs would randomly walk in front of the camera.
Yes. Hence our original name, the Incidental Dog Movie Podcast. I guess we can reminisce a little bit later if we would like. But we, as is our custom, decided to choose a large tentpole kind of movie. We've done Star Wars and The Matrix before on our various different anniversaries. This year, it's the 20th anniversary of Independence Day, which, when I realized that, made me feel really old.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So, they released Independence Day Regurgence to cinemas this...
You were surprised at how accurate that was, weren't you?
No, not totally. We like to call it Independence Day Regurgence because they decided to call it Resurgence, and apparently nobody in marketing caught that ahead of time. So 20-year anniversary of Independence Day, they released a sequel, so we decided to talk about both. So we're going to talk about the original Independence Day. I think it's safe to say we had all seen this before, probably multiple times.
Yep.
Once or twice.
Once or twice.
The year it came out. And then probably every year since then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me start. Do any of us not like this movie?
Independence Day Resurgence?
No, we're starting
No,
with
the
Yeah,
original.
I don't like
Independence Day.
Oh,
Independence Day,
The original.
1996.
There's some
I
problems
mean,
with it, but
there's problems with it, yes, but
Sure.
as a pure entertainment staple, then no, I have no problems with this movie.
So, I think instead of trying to get too deep into doing film criticism on this movie, I think we're more interested in just to talk about kind of how each of us, like our original viewing experience, that kind of thing. So, this came out in 1996. For me, that was actually an important year in movies because that's when I really started paying attention to movies. The summer of 96 had this
Like
one.
a
It
whole
had
Matrix thing that just happened there. What was that?
What?
I'm sorry, Tom. Did anybody else hear that?
It
It sounded-
sounded like a vehicle
sounded-
was driving past somewhere.
Yeah.
it sounds like
probably me. I'm in a hotel room in Deadwood, South Dakota, and is a parking lot right outside my room. So
Okay. All right. Understood.
it sounded very Matrixy.
Yeah.
You just got sucked into the Matrix.
Yeah.
okay. Well, I could be in the Matrix too. I don't really know.
Sorry, you were saying about how you just started to notice film and
It's
pay
possible that I
attention
only
to it.
think I'm in Deadwood, South Dakota. I'm really in a computer simulation of Deadwood, South Dakota.
Is this last year or 2 years ago? The Matrix. I can't
We did
remember.
the Matrix 2 years ago. I think for our 5-year anniversary, we were in too much transition and didn't know what to do, so we didn't really do anything specific.
Which was a great way to celebrate buried cinema. Very,
Transition.
very us.
Yes.
But who cares about 5 years? Because this is 6 years, right? This is
Exactly.
This is 6 years. Everybody celebrates 6 years.
So this was the summer of '96. This came out. Dragonheart came out. Twister came out. There's a lot of these big effects movies that came out, and I just remember that being a very exciting summer for me. Whether or not they hold up as good movies. However, I didn't actually see this in the theater. I was 14. Yeah, I was 14 in '96, so I was still relying on my parents to take me to the movies because I lived in the boondocks and didn't drive.
See, '96, I was in college in Philadelphia. I must have loved it because as soon as the Platinum Edition DVD with the 5 hours of extras came out, I bought it. I still have it. I watched it once, though, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Never watched it again, at least the extra stuff.
Yeah.
Brian, like you said, I've seen it probably once a year, every year since then, in bits and pieces.
Yeah, I guess we could still grade this movie, right? So
Yeah.
I think we're giving this one to Robert,
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert gets it.
as usual.
I don't think I understand.
Robert is a cast member of our podcast. He is rarely actually on the podcast, and when he is on, he doesn't say much. Does anybody want to explain Robert?
So there's the movie Rubber, which was, I would say, an important movie for our podcast. It was one of the weirder ones that we all really enjoyed. Maybe not everybody who's watched it since, but on that podcast, we all very much enjoyed the movie. And it's a movie about a killer tire who gains sentience and goes around exploding heads.
I have to see this movie.
Yeah, it really is, and it's actually an interesting commentary on the viewing process of film, but it's a very strange movie. And since then, we actually have a tire in the barn, and I think on that podcast, that's right, on the podcast, we found the tire. We put the tire in a chair because we were a video podcast at the time, and he sat there.
I've heard this,
and we would have our conversation. Every once in a while, we'd stop. Like we were listening to the stupid tire, and we're like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea," and we'd just continue on. So,
Is that how most of the empty bottles of liquor came to the
I think,
cabinets behind us?
yeah.
Okay,
There's that's most podcasts though.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and ever since then, we've had Robert the Tire as our 6th or 7th man on the podcast, and he usually is the one that gets the good grades.
And the thing that we kind of just breezed over right there is we do record in a barn in upstate New York. That's kind of our signature as a podcast, I think. That's a
Nobody could take that away from us.
Yeah. How many podcasts do you know of that record in a barn in upstate New York? All right, so I'll start out with the grading. I'm going to give this an A. I thought I might give it a B, but when I'm really thinking about it, if I'm thinking about it in terms of an old classic alien invasion movie, they all kind of have, the cheesy plot and cheesy dialogue and whatever. But I think when I was watching this, and it was the first time I'd seen it in widescreen, actually, it's amazing to me how 20 years later, the special effects and the sound is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also one of those movies that every time it just happens to be on TV, I'm going to be watching it. I've seen parts of this movie more times than I can count. So I'll give it an A. Kevin, you kind of started talking about it. Why don't you give us your grade?
Oh, yeah, I give it an A as well. I think it helped raise the bar for the summer blockbuster, for the quality that we now expect in films. Can't get away with some of the cheesy shit that you see, in the early 90s. Or even after it, there were a bunch of movies that just, I think, paled by comparison.
I mean, this didn't invent the summer blockbuster
Because Jaws did.
pretty much Spielberg and Lucas, did that.
But it raised the bar.
It did raise the bar, and it kind of changed the game in a lot of ways. This definitely changed the way that blockbusters were marketed. I was reading, apparently it was the first one that, did the $1 million Super Bowl commercial, and that's like a staple now.
Well, I was going to say, because I was thinking about this I was thinking about what you guys were just saying, its effect on film history. When I first saw this, I didn't see this in the theaters. Again, I had, I don't remember who showed it to me. I think I was over at a friend's house. It was on DVD. First scene I saw was the surgery scene.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Here
the
comes
scene
the
where they're
yucky part.
cutting the alien. Yeah, here comes the yucky part. And that's a terrifying scene to see just on its own. Not have any idea what's happening, not know what's coming. But then I went back and rewatched it at that age, and it's spectacular. And watching it again, like you guys have said, it holds up. But I was also thinking after that, and like you said, it doesn't invent the blockbuster, but I think a lot of movies tried to kind of bottle, do what Independence Day did, and you started seeing a little bit more disaster flicks. You started seeing trailers and things focus on the special effects and try to sell you on the effects. And so Kevin's right, this kind of set the bar higher there. But rewatching it, I was also thinking about how in some ways that was negative, because now we get these big effects pieces, but they also lose just some of the simple... It's a well-constructed script. It builds tension well. Mm-hmm. It is kind of cheesy and cliched. It has these little one-liners. It's also interesting from a Will Smith standpoint, because when I was watching it again, he's really a secondary supporting character. Like, this is supposed to follow Jeff. This is supposed to follow Jeff Goldblum. He's the main actor in this. He's the lead, and Will Smith just manages to make it his own movie.
Yeah, that brings up.
He's the guy that we remember. Right?
That brings up a couple of interesting points, because Will Smith, this is the one that propelled him to superstardom. Yeah, right. He was basically known as Mr. Blockbuster after this,
which is odd because this isn't his movie. Right, I think after this gets
at the
him
time,
Men in Black.
Yeah, it was an ensemble movie. It's an ensemble movie, but you watch it now, and a lot of it kind of rides on his charisma. Mm-hmm. You do have Jeff Goldblum, who somehow between this and Jurassic Park managed to be in like probably the two highest-grossing films of the '90s.
and you scratch your head and say, why?
So Jeff Goldblum basically is like the biggest actor of all time. Is what I'm saying.
If you put him in a movie, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. But you got, Bill Pullman's great. Bill Pullman's great in this movie too.
Yeah, he is.
He really sells that speech at the end. Even though today we celebrate our Independence Day, as a line makes no sense whatsoever. But it's. I mean, it's still, you hear that speech and you're still like you're feeling something, you know. So
yeah. I made sure my kids sat down just to listen to that speech. I'm like, this is probably the most famous speech, like single speech in film history.
And I mean, Nate's right. It has a lot of cheesy dialogue, but as far as like pacing and building tension goes, it's really, really well done. And I think one of the reasons the special effects holds up so well is it does use CGI, but apparently it used more models and miniatures, like twice as many as any single movie had up to that point. And like it melds all these like green screen and models and miniatures and cutting edge CGI. It kind of melds all these things together so well.
Good makeup, puppet work. Yeah.
Yeah. The aliens are really well designed. You know, you have a biological alien inside of kind of like a biomechanical suit, which I think was unique.
Yeah, because it made them frail.
Yeah, like when you first saw him, you're like, "Oh my god, it's this," and then you're like, "Oh no, it's just this little thing inside." Oh yeah, we can.
Oh, it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
So Nate, do you have a grade?
I'm giving it an A, and I don't know if I would have given it if I hadn't rewatched it. I might have given it just a B. But there is something to be said for 20 years later, it can still hold up, it can still entertain, and even my wife Sarah, who'd never seen it, like enjoyed it. It's still this kind of movie that you could show to somebody today, and they would be like, "All right, I was expecting this lame alien movie, and I'd get something much better."
I was say you don't really spend a lot of time with the aliens. It's more about the people and them coming together improbably, and it's. Yeah, I'm giving it an A as well. I'm glad I rewatched it. I actually haven't watched it in a really long time. I remember seeing this. I remember standing in a line around the building with my parents to see this in Irvine, California. It was right after I graduated high school. And this was like the big... I just remember this being like a really big deal. I was surprised. I remember it being bigger than it actually was, rewatching it. It seemed more... I don't know, you could tell that the shots were composed in such a way to kind of avoid having to do certain effects. But it didn't detract from the movie at all. It's just sort of like, well, we don't want to have a silly CGI thing here, so we're going to shoot it in this way so we don't have to show that. With the clouds, the ship coming in, we don't want to actually show the ship because that'll be too much. So we'll just have it coming in with like clouds and fire. But it works really, really well. My biggest complaint about this movie is that stupid dog. I want the dog to die. I hate that dog.
Oh, you shut your mouth. I love that scene.
Stupid
I
dog.
don't care.
There's women and children getting firebombed, and we're supposed to care about this
nonsensical
stupid
scene
dog
in the history of movies.
Oh my god!
Every time I see that scene, there was a National Lampoon's movie that came out after Men in Black had come out. It was called Men in White. and they went around this. They went around the universe in like space garbage trucks, and they like it was strange. Anyway, what happened? They blow up the White House, and like the dog house of the president's dog just goes flying, and it kills the first lady. and they're like, the first lady's dead, but who cares? The dog is saved.
You know, that's actually a staple. It became a staple of '90s action movies.
Yeah.
That you always see the dog survive.
Right.
I noticed that in a lot of movies after that, and Roland Emmerich is shameless about it now.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about that in a few minutes with Regurgence. Why there even was a dog in that movie, I have no idea. But
so it could not die. That was
exactly.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen 2012?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The way the dog survives in that movie is possibly more ridiculous than in Independence Day.
There's a part of me that wonders, like, how much Roland Emmerich is trying now.
Not at all.
I mean, he's still making movies. And
Yeah.
a while ago, I remember reading an interview with him talking about he didn't want to make big movies anymore. But I feel like he proposes a small movie, and a producer's like, come on, you're not that good. But we got this crappy blockbuster. You want to direct it. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because
he just attaches himself to these huge movies.
yeah, he also is heavily involved in the writing of those movies, though.
That's a good point. Yeah.
He's almost one of the blockbuster auteurs in that way.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of what we, in some ways, hoped Michael Bay would be. Like a guy who just made big blockbuster movies.
Although something that surprised me is that the sequel to Independence Day is the first sequel that he's ever done.
Really?
Yeah, he's been making movies since the 80s, early 80s. First sequel he's ever done. And he's like one of the blockbuster directors. So
And he's a lot smarter than we give him credit for.
he may be. Brian, do you have a grade?
Yeah, I think I'm going to pretty much fall in line at this point and give it an A as well. You know, there's nitpicky problems. There's 90s blockbuster problems, mostly, that you would see in this and movies that came out after it. Specifically, Roland Emmerich's next movie, Godzilla.
Matthew Broderick's an action star.
Yeah, I rewatched Godzilla. It is awful.
We'll be talking about
that with Brian's next pick.
But then he made, after Godzilla, he made what might be his best, what I would consider his best movie, The Patriot.
The Patriot, yeah. Which actually is a very good movie.
Yeah.
Even though people like to call it, Braveheart in America, it's... Patrick, we haven't heard a lot from you.
No, I give it an A. Pretty much kind of what you guys were saying. Yeah, I first saw this, I guess I would have been in college. It's probably one of the few movies I did actually see in the theater. I remember that speech. Like I remember like walking out and feeling like, wow, that was like something powerful and moving. But like you said, Steve, I don't think I've really seen it. I mean, I might have seen it once or twice after that, but I haven't seen it in like 10 years. So this really was nice to sit down and rewatch it. And like you guys were saying, realize just how well it really holds up still as a great movie, even by today's standards. I really love this movie.
I just remembered. Go ahead.
I guess I'm a little disheartened when I heard Nate suggest that, and you might be right, that this is almost responsible for Michael Bay. Michael Bay might not have happened if this hadn't, and now leaves a little distaste in my mouth. But
when did he make when is The Rock?
The Rock was the same year as Independence Day, but he made Bad Boys with Will Smith the year before this. So he had been already making movies for a couple years, but Independence Day was responsible for kind of bringing back the big disaster movie, and also for bringing back the big blockbuster sci-fi movie. Yeah, pretty much. So in a way, Independence Day's legacy did bring us kind of Michael Bay's Transformers movies and stuff like that. So
well, because what happens is after Independence Day comes out, people want, and this happens all the time in Hollywood, right? They want to replicate the success.
Oh yeah. It's
But
natural. I mean, it's
I think sometimes what they kind of missed, though, was with Independence Day, what they replicated, they just wanted to replicate the special effects. And so they kind of missed some of the simple things they do with character, the simple pacing. And so we eventually get things like Transformers, where people are like, just show robots and aliens blowing up. Yeah. It's kind of like how now studios all want a universe.
Yeah.
right? They see what Marvel's doing, and they're trying to replicate that, but you want to stop them and say, we don't like Marvel just because it's a universe. We like that they're well-written characters. We like that the action has something more. Don't just give me a universe that I don't want and don't need.
Yeah.
That's not going to keep me coming back.
Yep.
And so that's kind of its...
But Nate, you're telling me you don't want an entire Ghostbusters universe?
That is what I'm telling you.
I don't believe you.
And sometimes when I hear that, it's so dumb. So some of the things that they're trying to build, some of the universes, I'm like, why? Just stop.
Why?
I think we've said all we need to say about Independence Day at this point.
Yeah.
Let's regurgitate it.
Before anybody regurgitates anything, let's add Independence Day to our Flick Chart. Flick Chart is a website that we use on every podcast. It's a website where you get 2 movies and you pick which one's better, and it just builds your rankings over time. We have 483 films on our Flick Chart, films we've done on the podcast over the past 6 years. We're going to be hitting 500 movies pretty soon.
Oh.
Woo!
Do another 6 movies for that.
All right. It's the first matchup we got, and this movie has been coming up a lot. Independence Day versus Neighbors.
Independence Day.
I didn't see Neighbors.
I haven't
Independence
seen
Day.
it yet.
Independence Day versus Interstellar.
Independence Day.
Interstellar.
I started to watch that. I haven't finished it.
Interstellar. Yeah.
Interstellar.
Interstellar wins, I believe.
That's what Independence Day was missing. Matthew McConaughey.
But Matthew
McConaughey.
McConaughey was in movies like Angels in the Outfield at that point.
Yeah.
Actually, he was in Lone Star that same year, 96.
Oh, really?
Next matchup is Independence Day versus Gravity.
Independence Day.
Independence Day.
Gravity.
Sandra
I'm holding
Bullock,
on to my theater experience with that movie.
George
Oh.
Clooney.
Oh, I did see that movie.
She died in
Yeah, I go for
96.
Independence Day too.
Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, I'm holding
I
on to my
like
theater
Gravity,
experience.
Am I the only one who went Gravity?
I haven't chosen yet. I'm going to go Independence Day. The problem is I think Gravity won't hold up when I watch it.
It doesn't
Independence
hold up.
Day.
I think it might not, and that's why I'm afraid to watch it, and that's why I want to hold on to my theater experience.
It was
Yeah.
fantastic in the theater. One of the best experiences I've had watching a movie in the theater. It does not hold up at home.
Yeah, that's
So we need to build a movie theater.
Independence Day just entered our top 100. Independence Day versus Source Code.
Source code.
Source
Yes.
code.
Source
Source
Code.
code.
Independence Day.
A string theory movie.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely about string theory. No matter what anybody says.
Are other people saying other things?
Do people argue with you about that?
Me and you were.
Steven. No, it was you and Albin. Steve and Albin got into it.
Yeah, over that.
Over whether it's string theory or parallel universes and whether there is a difference and how the
No,
two
'cause-
absolutely cannot coincide.
Albin said it was pure time travel, and I said it was about string theory
Oh,
and
okay.
parallel universes. And
Source Code wins. And I think this is... Nope, that's it. Independence Day is now number 98 on our Flick Chart.
For now. Maybe by the end of the podcast,
Yeah.
it'll be outside.
I think Resurgence is going to knock it down a little.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's just going to
That is
surge
gonna
up there.
Skyrocket
Exactly.
to the top.
research.
What goes up must come down.
Unless you're in space, when that wouldn't apply.
Yeah, way to be
But
What is
Earth-centric, Nate.
Well, we are now going to move into Independence Day Regurgence, as we like to call it. This is, of course, in case you forgot from like 20 minutes ago, is the sequel to Independence Day, which came out 20 years ago. Will Smith did not come back, but Jeff Goldblum did, and so did Bill Pullman,
Because he's the star.
and so did what's his name?
Judd Hirsch.
Judd Hirsch and Vivica A. Fox and
Brent
Data.
Spiner.
Robert Loggia for
Which I-
like 5
Wasn't
seconds.
Data dead?
Was that actually Robert Loggia?
Yes, it was.
wow.
And Data did not die in the first one.
Data did not die in the
No, I
first one.
swear, Adam Baldwin like feels his pulse, he's dead.
Yeah.
He died.
Well, but who can you trust a Baldwin? Come on.
That's true.
He's not a Baldwin. He's not one of the Baldwins.
Yeah, I know, but guilt by association.
Wait, Adam Baldwin is not a Baldwin?
He's not one of the Baldwins.
Really?
Alec, William,
So
Stephen, Daniel. He's not one of.
He's not
He's
related. He's
No.
Are you? He's not related to them?
I am totally sure.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was.
I thought he was like the fifth Baldwin.
It's
Trivia.
more conversations like this that make the podcast.
That's exactly what I'm
Dom,
thinking.
this is radio gold. We need to
First-
determine if Adam
first
Baldwin
piece
is
of-
actually
First
Baldwin.
piece of trivia. First piece of trivia. Adam Baldwin. No relation to the Baldwin brothers. Alec, Daniel, William, and Stephen, who are from Long Island. Adam is from Chicago.
Thank
It's
you.
got to be. Can you look more
See-
into his family tree to see where? 'Cause
How
there's
far
gotta
back
be-
do we have to go until he becomes?
Until-
involved
We got to
in
get to the bottom of it.
Okay, I see.
If it takes
You
all
all
night.
just proved we can never do a live podcast. And that's okay. I mean, why fake it? But I'm glad we put that to bed. I will never bring it up again.
If it makes you feel any better, Steve, he's good friends with Jamie Lee Curtis, so that's fine.
Okay, well, that does make me feel
And Jamie
slightly
Lee
better.
Curtis was a big fan of Warcraft, and there you go. Okay. Oh my god. So Regurgence picks up 20 years later after the end of Independence Day. Basically, Earth has not had war in the past 20 years because the War of 1996, as they call it in the film, brought all the nations of Earth together, and they're using alien technology now. They have a colony. Is it a colony or just a base? I think it's just a base on the moon. They have a whole space defense program set up. So let's try this a little bit different. We're just going to go around the horn real quick and give Nate. We're going to start with Nate, and we're just going to give a quick grade, and that's it. Just a grade. If I hear anything else in my mouth, I'm disconnecting the podcast.
Okay. And Tom, you did officially choose this, right?
Okay, yeah, let me...
Do you want the grade for this or the grade for Killer Clowns?
I'm pretty sure I know how Brian feels about the movie. I'm not going to take the hit on that one. Yeah, we were talking about what to do for our 6-year podcast. We thought Independence Day would be a good idea. I said we should do the sequel too, and then I immediately realized that by suggesting that,
You chose it.
I hit for Regurgence. So, yes, I am taking the grades for Independence Day Regurgence. Go.
I'm giving it a D.
Okay, next.
Yeah.
Brian,
D.
Kevin,
I'm giving this a B.
really?
Not
Yes.
surprised.
Okay. Patrick,
Strong C.
strong C. Great. Same thing as a weak C, but all right.
Holy, holy shit!
Steve.
That makes me want to give this an F.
Do it. Do it. John Carpenter's better than Star Wars, Steve.
John Carter.
Sorry, John Carter. And John Carpenter.
Carpenter's
Whatever, they're both better.
Too, but it,
Steve, what is your F?
Oh man, I really want to just drag this down just to spite it.
I think it's pretty far down already.
I guess I'll give it a D.
All right. When I first came out of the theater, I was kind of on a C, but after really thinking about it, I have to give it a D as well. So,
4 Ds, a B, and a C.
strong C.
A strong C, exactly. It's a C
Strong
plus
C.
if we
right.
could do that.
Sorry. No.
I know.
That's me a C
You have to
minus.
decide.
We do not do pluses or minuses.
No, I know. That's why I'm
No.
saying it's in the C. It's a C.
Yeah, but
I can't bring it
the
up to B. But
overall
I'm just saying.
grade is a
Yeah.
plus or minus.
Right.
It gets
Oh.
a D plus, a
Oh.
Kung Fuhrer.
Pure. Well,
Hold on. Let me get comfortable. All right, go.
let's just start with Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. I wholeheartedly think that everybody involved with this film knew there was no way it could stand up to the original. Knowing that, with exception of Will Smith's son, who sucked, I think everybody had a
Yeah.
good time in this movie.
Are you talking about Jaden Smith or the son in the movie?
The son in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The son in the movie.
Jaden Smith sucked in this movie too.
Yeah.
The son in this movie is the kid from the first Independence Day who was to become his stepson,
Right.
who's now grown up to be a fighter pilot in the shadow of his father.
The fighter pilot, apparently the
Fighter.
ace of the world that everybody loves. And I weep for our society if everybody looks up to this kid. Outside of his role and his effect on the film, I had a fun time, and I use that word too much, but I had a fun time watching this movie because I knew it was just campy, and I went into this hesitantly, and I mentioned this to Stephen beforehand, the scale of the ship just was ridiculous. It's covering a third of the planet.
It's
You know.
3,000 miles wide.
Yeah,
How does it not kill the planet? Like, just
Well,
immediately.
It
Yeah.
slowed down
Yeah.
to a cautious 5 miles an hour before it impacted the coastline.
It parked very carefully
Exactly.
as
which
far as alien invasion ships go.
it's so unrealistic. I couldn't do anything but laugh at it. I mean, Judd Hirsch, he's trying to drive his little dinghy as fast as he can away from the ship, and come on, it's not going to be good. But I had a really good time watching this movie. That's why I'm giving it a B.
See, that's what really bothered me. It was really implausible. Sorry.
You said honestly like angry about that. Like you want plausibility with your Independence Day.
Exactly.
Patrick has a point, all right? The first Independence Day is all right. The first Independence Day is implausible because they basically, I forget where I read this. It was one of the best like critiques of Independence Day I've ever read. Basically, it said that Jeff Goldblum gets the idea to give the alien mothership a virus, right? That's how they bring them down. And the point of the article was like a Mac and a PC won't sync together. So
but that's that they're wrong. I read that same article and they are wrong.
You hit a nerve.
Yes, because there's the line where he figures out, because either way it would still have to use binary. That would be universal. So he figures out their machine instructions from the signal that they were sending through satellites, and from there he can build up a language that would work. So it actually is plausible.
I mean, it is Jeff Goldblum.
Right.
I don't know if I totally
Steven
agree.
just single-handedly patched all the plot holes in Independence Day.
But I don't know.
I'm this century's Jeff Goldblum.
I wouldn't go broadcasting.
Can't Jeff Goldblum still be this century's Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah.
No, I've taken his name.
Despite the fact that the internet has killed him at least 3 times, he is still alive.
The point is that the first Independence Day still has a sense of groundedness to it, where everything that takes place within within the frame of the plot that they've built, it works.
Yeah. No, I feel
Regurgence has the same problem that a lot of Roland Emmerich's recent films have. Is it just seems so like he shrugged and said, we'll put this scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Like with Judd Hirsch on the boat, like trying to pretend that he's the savior of the world and selling books. Then he saves a school bus full of children, and the school bus is driving around, and there's an alien chasing it, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
So there's a scene in the movie that sort of captures the entire movie for me, and it's when what's his name, the president,
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman tries to do that really awkward speech where he's like half like out of his mind.
What happened to him? Was he hung over this whole movie?
Yeah. So no, he walks in. And he gives that, I'm going to try to recapture this speech moment. Even Jeff Goldblum stared at him like, really? You're going to do this? And there's and he's looking at him like, please stop, please. And Bill Pullman's just going I could recapture that moment. And it's just like watching Kobe play in his last few years. Where, dude, you got to give it up. You're done. And it was
Bill Pullman in this movie is basically Jeb Bush.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Asking people to clap for him.
It was so pathetic, and that's this entire. There are a few. The reason I gave it a D is there are actually 1 or 2 things about this movie that I really liked, but the rest of the movie was remember when this happened? We're going to do that again, and it's going to be just as awesome. But no, it's not.
See, that's the thing. As long as nobody was speaking, I enjoyed the movie. It really, it really wasn't. That's why I give it a C, because I there were parts I didn't think it was that bad. The dialogue was horrible. I mean, the chemistry of people was horrible. That's why I couldn't even give it a B, because I can't even edge it quite up to good. But I didn't think it was that horrible.
I went into it expecting a bad movie, so
I went to expect a bad movie. I actually thought this movie started out pretty well. I thought it was interesting, the kind of 20 years later world that they had built.
Yes, that's one of the interesting things.
The infrastructure and where these characters were. I was really enjoying this movie, actually, right up until the alien ship appeared and the destruction started, because then it was just this is utterly ridiculous. The Earth wouldn't survive this.
Right.
And then it went from that into, I think here was where it really just went off the rails. I don't even know what to call him. Will Smith's stepson. He's flying off to save his mom, right? Because Vivica A. Fox returns since she's a doctor now.
Yeah.
She went from
stripper to doctor.
It's often a very common career path.
She was paying off her student loans.
Yeah.
That's why she was doing it.
He goes to save her, right? And she dies. She basically sacrifices her life to help a woman and a baby into a helicopter. She doesn't make it in. He witnesses her fall into the, with the building and die. And it's supposed to be this really heartrending moment. And the immediate next scene is the goofy Judd Hirsch making, comical commentary as his boat's getting pushed by this giant wave. And it's We went right from a character from the first movie dying right in front of her son to a jokey moment. And it was like, there's no tone to this movie anymore.
And that's on the director. That's on Emmerich, really. And I mean, you wonder what kind of, like you said, what kind of happened. You feel like he doesn't care, because the first one has perfect pacing. It cares about these characters. When the first lady dies, it doesn't have a jokey moment right after it. It's intense. These characters, at least as far as the script goes, you get worried. Like in this one, it's ridiculous, because you're like, they can't get out of this.
Yeah.
And then when they do, it doesn't seem, once again, like we said, plausible.
And all this destruction's happening, and Jeff Goldblum makes the crack. They love to go after the landmarks.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, haha, this is all very funny.
Oh,
and then it's
speaking of haha, very funny things with landmarks, where they didn't blow up the White House, but something kind of like fell down onto the roof. Like, haha, guys, we didn't do it this time. We did it last time, but not this time. I don't know. This movie was a mess. They kept like bringing back, hey, remember this better movie that we did 20 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
We did it back then. We're going to do it again. I basically disliked this movie for the same reason I disliked Force Awakens. Just not on the same level, because this movie wasn't as good as Force Awakens. I just felt like it was a rehashing of a previously told story, just not as good.
There was actually a good movie, and it would have been a very, very, very different movie, but I think it would have been much better. There was a good movie in this, and that was the ground war that happened after they defeated the aliens.
Yeah,
with the African warlords. If they'd have said,
that
you know what, screw all this, the sequel is going to be the ground war in the aftermath. That would have been an amazing movie.
Yeah, where he learns their
language. Because that was a very interesting character.
Yeah, that would have been fun. And I just kept wanting to see more of that. And that's actually what brought it up to a D for me. So I'm like, okay, there was actually a good kernel of a story here. And he didn't recognize it. He didn't realize what he had.
Yeah.
I would like to say one thing that I felt was good about this movie, is that William Fichtner was not a giant douche villain in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? We've screwed with you so much. We're going to make you president. Even if that means we have to kill the other president and everybody else who is in the line of succession until you.
Yeah. Was the entire line of succession goes down in one shot off screen?
Yeah.
That's plausible.
Because apparently they were all in that room.
Apparently.
It's the best way to
Right. Meanwhile, the first movie actually says that they don't want to do that, right? They don't want to put them all like in the same spot.
This movie got lazier and lazier the more it went on toward the end. And then it just had that non-ending that is happening more and more these days. And it drives me nuts where it's like, we want to make another movie, so we're not actually going to write an ending to this one. Data comes out and he's like, hey, I just had a conversation with a giant floating ball, and it says it's really impressed by us and it wants us to lead the resistance. It's like, really? We're going to kick so much alien ass, and then end credits.
They're trying to build franchises and universes, unfortunately, and some of these things have to fail before they stop doing that.
The issue is if you're trying to build a franchise off a movie, don't wait 20 years to make the sequel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's my other question. What happened to Margaret Colin, Jeff Goldblum's wife in the first one? What happened to her?
Right, yeah.
Never addressed. Never addressed.
Yeah.
They broke up the first time for some reason.
Yeah, she just also had the good sense to not be.
It's been 20 years, Tom. Let it go.
Yeah.
And it's not discussed anymore because it happened 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Except for Tom.
I care.
No, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's another thing where they just don't.
You guys are getting nitpicky.
Yeah, I didn't care about that just because it has been in the movie universe as well. It's been 20 years. I mean, do you remember who you were dating 20 years ago?
But they were married. There needs to be some kind of a comment.
Actually, I remember who I had a crush on 20 years ago.
Was it Mae Whitman, the original president's daughter?
No, again, I was 14. That would have been creepy even then.
I don't know.
Little Mrs. Robinson kind of thing going on? Oh, I don't know.
I do wish they had brought Mae Whitman back. I think that would have been...
They didn't bring back either child from the movie.
Yeah, but Ross Bagley hasn't been acting. She has. Anyway.
Flick chart!
Let's move on to Flick Chart then. I I just heard a little voice. I'm going to add Independence Day Regurgence to our picture. I'm typing Regurgence and nothing's coming up.
You're going to type in the wrong name, and I know it.
The first film that comes up against on the chart is Zootopia.
Zootopia.
Oh, Zootopia.
Yes. Independence Day 2 versus Days of Heaven.
Days of Heaven.
Days of Heaven.
Days
Days of Heaven.
I don't think I've seen
Didn't
it.
see it. Yeah.
Did I see it?
Richard Gere
You might
fights.
not remember.
Richard Gere fights locusts. That's the movie.
Actually, I think I did see this.
Richard Gere is the locust.
Oh, no, I remember.
He also fights wheat.
He's got a gluten problem?
He's
Is
very
he gluten
anti-gluten.
intolerant, too?
Yeah.
He drops a cup at one point.
It was a wine glass.
Oh,
Independence Day.
Is this the one where they take the long shot of the stream and something underwater?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, that was
Yeah.
the one.
Oh, I'm going Regurgence.
Yeah, that
I hated that. Oh, my God.
That
Wait,
shot
who
was
did-
beautiful.
Oh,
it goes from the
bullshit.
wildflowers. No, it goes from the wildflowers to the stream, and then back up to the two guys
Oh,
just staring at
Terrence-
each other.
oh,
It was
oh,
nice. It was a nice
damn.
shot.
We're back. A dinosaur story.
We're back at Dinosaur Story.
I'm gonna go Resurgence because I would have more fun watching it.
Hell yeah. Resurgence.
These movies are about they're about the
Very good.
same.
Okay, I agree.
Reason I picked We're Back at Dinosaur Story is because I watched that movie and I had fond memories of the movie when I had watched it previously as a child. And I guess the same thing goes back to watching Independence Day Resurgence, just not this movie, a totally different movie. And because of that, that is why I picked We're Back at Dinosaur Story.
I'm not sure I followed that line of thought, but even when I watched We're Back as a child, I finished and I was like, what did I just watch? Oh, like even as a kid, I was like, anyway, I'm going to Independence Day. I think Independence Day wins. Regurgence versus Hereafter.
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 Matt Damon?
Yes.
Matt Damon. Yeah, Hereafter.
Do you guys remember how bad that movie was?
Yeah, but it has some good stuff. There are good scenes.
It has some good
It
scenes.
has good scenes. So does
Yeah.
Independence Day. Regurgence. but
There are good ideas. But I don't think there are any good scenes.
I would never go back and rewatch Hereafter. It had some good scenes. That opening tidal wave was
Yeah.
well done. There's a good scene here or there, but you could honestly not get me to sit down and rewatch that movie. There's no reason for me to. At least with Resurgence, I would
There's no
have
reason to watch
some sense of
Resurgence.
fun. Neither.
If you're gonna watch-
but
if
if
you're-
I have to,
If you're
choose
gonna
between the
watch an
two, it's
Independence
the
Day
watch
movie,
back.
just watch the original one.
Yeah, I was actively bored through most of the movie.
actively
Hereafter or
bored.
Resurgence?
Resurgence.
All right, so I said Hereafter. Brian said Hereafter.
Haven't seen it.
Thanks.
I
Did
said
Steve say Hereafter?
Yep.
Okay. So that's 3-1 of those of us who
Yep.
have seen it. Okay.
Yep.
Hereafter wins. Regurgence is not doing well. It is now up against Junk January movies.
Oh no.
Ghost Dad.
Star Crash.
Star Crash.
Star Crash, easily. Better sci-fi movie.
No, I'll go Independence Day. It is not Star Crash bad.
I'm going to go Independence Day too. Steve, the only one that went Star Crash?
I did too.
So it's stuck. Let's go with Star Crash then. That puts Regurgence at number 454 out of 485.
Wow.
That is not good. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Brian's going to talk to us about killer clowns from outer space.
What?
Wait, what?
Why? Because I was the only one that watched that Hunger
Oh,
thought you were talking Mars
Attacks.
Attacks.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no,
Mars
it's fine.
We can mention killer clowns from outer space, but
I just did.
Done.
All right.
Moving on. Okay, let's go. Faster.
Do not tell me what to do. Okay, since we were already talking about Independence Day, I chose another alien invasion movie that happened to come out the same year, Mars Attacks, directed by Tim Burton, starring Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, Sarah Jessica Parker, and pretty much anybody else. If you throw a stick at them, they're probably in this movie.
Interesting metaphor.
It's Martians come to Earth.
they attack.
They do end up attacking, and what just happens that in sheer buffoonery, the American government is like, well, maybe there was a misunderstanding the first time. So let's take them back and apologize for having pigeons or doves or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember. Let's start off. Tom, grade the movie.
Grade only?
Grade only.
I'm going to give this movie a D. It was the second time I watched it.
Okay. Nate.
I'm going to give this movie a B.
Steve.
C?
Kevin.
D.
Patrick.
D.
I'm giving it a C as well.
Who's tracking
I have
the
a
grades
couple
on
questions.
this? Wait for it.
Nate was tracking the grades.
Yep, 2 C's, a B, and 3 D's.
Oh, that's better
That
than
should give
Independence
it,
Day.
if my math is correct, it should be slightly better than Independence Day.
Yeah.
1 less D, which
Yeah.
does in fact, it gives Mars Attacks apparently still a D+, but it gets a cool penguin as opposed to a Kung Fu. So it's like a slightly better D+.
Yeah.
You saying Kung Fu?
Says, I love the way he says it because he's the guy who took German in high
Kung
school.
Fu.
Kung Fu?
That's how you say it, Kung Fu.
Yeah, Kung Fu. That was pretty much how it sounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confer.
I'd like to confer.
The comforter.
on you.
He's the comforter.
All right, Tom. You had already expressed dismay at seeing this movie before you watched it again. So I'll start with you.
Yeah, I had seen this movie, not in theaters, but I think I recorded it off of pay-per-view. I think I must have watched it a couple times at least, but I don't know why, because I really didn't like it. I did rewatch it, and even though I kind of understood a little more of the satirical angle it was going for, like kind of making fun of old 50s and 60s B movies, like that kind of stuff I got this time, and I appreciate the aesthetic of it. It's kind of a very colorful and cartoonish, but very dark at the same time. But I just felt like a lot of the humor did not land. A lot of the jokes are just kind of lazy. I don't know. Am I the only one who had seen this before?
I've
No,
seen.
I saw it when it came
If I
out.
hadn't seen all of it, I'd seen most of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it a couple times before this.
My other question, though, was had anybody been a fan of the cards that this movie was based on?
I didn't know it was based on cards.
It was based on a popular series of collecting cards from Topps, and each card featured a different, scenario of a Martian killing a dog or setting a herd of cattle on fire or something like that.
I might have had 1 or 2 at some point, just like in random collecting, but I don't think I had. I definitely didn't have the card. I wasn't a fan of them, I would say.
I was just curious if anybody was coming at it from that angle.
I had Garbage Pail Kids, but I don't know if I'd ever watch a movie about them.
There is a movie about them.
So Nate, other end of the spectrum.
When I first saw this movie, I didn't like it. I mean, I kind of felt like Tom and some of the other Ds, I would imagine. But rewatching it, and also knowing that it came out the same time, it's weird because it came out the same year as Independence Day, and it almost like lampoons Independence Day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have all the same sort of characters, and they make the president gets up and gives a big speech, and so it's this weird commentary. And then I felt myself just enjoying the utter stupidity and silliness of it. It literally, it feels like Tim Burton just kind of let loose, and he doesn't really care. It's incredibly immature, sort of in a weird way, like refreshingly so. It allows characters to just die. I don't know if you would really call them cameos. Some of it's just very bizarre.
Yeah, I'd forgotten.
Right? Like Tom Jones just shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten half.
Jim-
I forgot Natalie Portman was in this movie.
Jim
Jack
Brown's
Black?
in the movie.
I just found myself watching it and loving every moment, to be honest. And so, but
I actually thought Annette Bening was really,
enough
really
to get-
good. I thought Annette Bening was really good,
Yes.
actually. Just the character she was playing. Because it's so unlike her usual role.
I mean, mainly I was with Nate for the majority of the movie. I was watching it. I enjoyed it. And like the biggest reason I went from a B to a C was how they ended up killing the aliens
Yeah.
with like country western music.
Actually, that was one of the things that I liked the most about the movie.
It's yodel. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not country, just country western. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yodely country. It's old country. But the reason I liked that part is, I mean, to me, that's pretty clearly a send-up of the War of the Worlds.
Right.
and how the aliens in the War of the Worlds are brought down by a germ. Like, that's the idea behind War of the Worlds. And here they're brought down by something pretty random and absurd.
I don't know. Not coming at it from a movie buff, like I read a little bit afterwards that, you know, he paid a lot of homage to the old, you know, 50s and 60s alien movies.
There's tons, yeah.
But I don't get any of those references. So, like, just watching it from a sheer, okay, I'm watching this as a independent, you know, self-contained movie, I don't have any of that to enjoy or fall back on. So to me, yeah, a lot of that just it didn't seem like a comedy to me. There was the jokes fell flat. There wasn't really anything there, and I could see it sort of as an homage. Okay, maybe that's what he was going for, and maybe just kind of like the idea that, well, that's the best we can, you know, that's kind of what they were. The alien invasion thing is kind of a cheesy kind of trope idea. So I sort of was thinking it was about a C movie. You know, I didn't really love it. I didn't really hate it. I watched that before rewatching Independence Day. After watching Independence Day and then realizing they came out in the same movie, I'm like, no, you can do a fantastic alien movie with, like you said, it almost seemed like it was a spoof. It was that same multiple characters coming together. That's what made me then, like, not hate it, but make it even, that dropped it down to a D after I was like, no, you really could have done that same story very, very well. You know, it doesn't have to just be this cheesy kind of trope. So that's what actually knocked it down for me. After watching Independence Day, I dropped my grade for this one.
I enjoyed the cheesiness. That's what I liked about it. I liked that it didn't try to be smart. That's part of what it's lampooning, is that a fair amount of these films are dumb. It's just and Burton revels in that, right? Like, Ed Wood is one of his great films, and you can see how much he loves just that kind of organic bad movie. And he literally went and made one. It's, in a weird way, it's a love letter to some of those very terrible 50s alien films.
But this also seems like a love letter to, I agree with you, and I actually enjoyed the homages throughout this. And I actually liked some of the silliness when they, you know, the bird, they off with the bird and the bird gets fried and all that kind of stuff. But this movie's actually really poorly edited. The cuts are awkward. The scenes aren't timed very well. I remember I actually really enjoyed this first time I saw it, and it dropped way down for me for a few reasons. Mainly, I think the directing actually is pretty poor.
See, and that's what I can't decide if he's doing that intentionally because he's trying to be like Ed Wood, or if it was just Tim Burton off his game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say the same.
This is 1996. This is still Tim Burton in his prime, right? This is between Ed Wood. And I think Sleepy Hollow was his next one, possibly. But yeah, I can't tell if it's intentional or not, and that's a problem for me.
Yeah, I mean, you can lampoon bad directing with good directing. That's possible.
Right.
And that's not what was happening here. The other thing that really bothered me about this, and this was something I mentioned to Kevin when we were watching it, I am like, wait a second, is this movie saying, like, basically the message of this movie is peace is the bad option? Because we keep trying to... Like, well, maybe it was a mistake. Let's try to be peaceful. And the warmongering general is the one that's right all along. And so basically, the message I got from this movie is the peaceful hippies will destroy the world. And I'm not okay. Maybe I was okay with that when I was a teenager. I'm not okay with that now.
I don't think this movie has a message, though.
Yeah, there's not a message. Yeah.
But there is a theme, and the theme is that trying to make peace is what's going to destroy us in the end. I mean, this movie's lampooning Hollywood, too.
This is interesting, this point, because it's really a mixed bag in that way for me. I like the idea that it's upending what you would expect out of a story like this, where the ones who wanted peace and freedom are the good guys or whatever. I actually thought Rod Steiger was really good in this, just as a side note. But thematically, I couldn't get a handle on it.
I think thematically it's more about what we expect from movies.
Yeah.
And thematically, it is interesting, remembering that it came after Ed Wood, part of me thinks that some of the slapdash editing is purposeful. Not in the sense that Tim Burton's trying to be like an auteur and he's trying to he wanted to make a kind of a dirty, thrown together film. And so watching this, I'm getting the sense, I mean, the theme is about what we expect from entertainment, what makes a B movie. And in this case, it's not interesting to always be peace-loving. And what we want as the audience is to see Jim Brown get in a fist fight with a bunch of aliens and still come back at the end, even though he's killed. We want to see all these explosions. right? That's the way that a film is supposed to go. And we can laugh at these ridiculous characters who, are willing to let the aliens come into Congress, even though it's clear.
Yeah.
These are not the aliens you should give a second chance to.
Especially
right?
walking in there with their ray guns.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's mentioning just sort of the absurdity of film, and yet that's what we want.
I don't know. I think
and he
might
kind of
still
talks
be going
about that
too
with
deep.
Ed Wood.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of it deeper
Yeah, it might
than
be.
he did.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I like about it. I don't think he thought of it very deep. What studio made this? They gave him a couple, he got way too much money to make this movie.
Yeah.
And just did whatever the heck he wanted.
Not really.
What? He
He wanted-
he didn't get a lot. Is this?
No, he wanted to do stop motion for the aliens, and he didn't have the budget for it.
Ah.
So they got ILM to do it in CGI, which actually added an interesting aesthetic to the aliens, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain scenes where it's interesting, and there's certain scenes where it's just really dated CGI.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back and forth.
The female alien is still impressive.
Oh my god, I
The
love
whole
Lisa
costume
Marie.
and
I have to, yeah.
Yeah.
She usually only does bit parts in Tim Burton movies like that, like weird. But it's always
He shows
interesting
up.
before he dumped her for Helena Bonham Carter.
Does anyone want to say anything else about Mars Attacks before we move on to Flick Chart?
Well, the last thing I was going to say, it's another interesting paradox, because I really actually don't like this movie because of its kind of mean-spirited humor. But at the same time, I think it's funny that the Martians are just assholes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like other alien invasion movies where like they're coming to deplete our resources or to take over our bodies. These guys just like to...
They're just jerks.
Yeah, they just come here just to...
Jerks. Yeah.
They're just jerks, yeah. They're on the spaceship and they're like making fun of the humans, and then the way he kills the president at the end.
With the flag of Mars coming out of the back?
Yeah. So that part, I appreciated that part, but I don't know, it didn't quite find the right tone to make that enjoyable throughout the whole movie for me. So.
All right. Well, we will then add Mars Attacks to Flick Chart. First ball up is Neighbors, Mars Attacks, or Neighbors.
Neighbors.
Mars Attacks.
I didn't see
I
Neighbors.
wish I saw Neighbors so I could vote for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Steve,
go
you said
Mars
Neighbors?
Attacks.
Yes, I did.
Like, Mars Attacks is at least such a unique film. It's out there and it exists and it's its own thing. I kind of admire that about it.
So was that other piece of crap Boone Me and the ghosts of his dead grandfather
Yeah.
or something. I
No,
can
because
understand
that
your point of
director,
view, but that in
Kevin,
of
has
itself
made
does
lots of
not
movies
make a
like
good
that.
movie. This movie
And
sucked.
Kevin, if you go back and listen to that podcast, you'll hear me say the same thing.
I know. And I get it. I've been sitting here and like, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. I can't stand this movie. And the only reason I'm not giving it an F is because the caliber of actors that stupidly attach their name to it. I can appreciate a director trying to show respect to craft, but this missed on so many levels. Mm-hmm. I don't get it.
Just the mere fact that he got an A-list cast is another homage to the types of movies that he's lampooning, because those old like disaster alien movies where they got like a name actor, like a big cast of name actors like the Poseidon Adventure and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
That's basically what they were doing.
Or even think of what's the we did the ant one.
Them.
Yeah, which is a good example of kind of a big monster movie, but it's the same sort of thing. They got big name actors, put them in this film.
No, they didn't. What are you talking about?
Them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like who was in them? Who are
You
those?
can't even remember.
Nobody knows.
I can't remember.
Who are them? You want to know the funny thing while you're looking that up? I hate these two movies for the same reason.
I'm not looking at them.
There's a dumb frickin' noise
I am.
throughout this whole movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, whether it's like, or that when they're yodeling to make their heads explode, or the screeching ant noise.
Okay, you're right.
yodeling,
Maybe
I
James
agree.
Hartnett's the biggest guy in there. Yeah, whatever. That's a bad example.
I picked Mars Attacks, by the way. Second movie, Mars Attacks or Down by Law?
Down by law.
Down by law.
Haven't
Down
seen
by
it.
law.
I'll probably go Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks or Shutter Island?
Shutter Island.
Shutter Island.
Shutter
Much
Island.
higher.
Mars Attacks or Thirst?
Thirst.
The licking the armpit.
Thirst.
Yeah. I'm going to go thirst.
The movie's about
Completely
licking armpits.
revolves around licking a hairy armpit.
You should watch it.
No, it's all right. It's all good.
I just could never finish this movie.
It's a good movie.
It took me
bad.
4 tries to
vampire.
watch this movie, and I didn't finish.
I wish I hadn't watched that so early in my foreign film experiences. Yeah, I didn't quite have the stomach for it back then.
Now you can watch licking armpits all day long.
That part,
8 hours.
honestly, I skimmed over that, but just
The licking armpit is not the most disturbing stuff in that movie.
No,
though.
it's not.
not.
There's
It's
so
just
much
the
more.
most. It is the
Yeah.
most like sort of cringe-worthy moment in the movie.
So
Not the
thirst
most
went.
disturbing.
I don't know. Really?
I don't understand how that so specifically is the thing that everybody latches on
Not
to. I don't
the-
get it.
No, not everybody.
Yeah, not the
just
fact that they
Steven.
like
No.
just Steve. Not the fact that they like take the mother and make her watch them like kill people.
No, I mean that's
Like,
disturbing.
that's
but
disturbing.
there's that like physical gut reaction. With
But it's
that.
not
Actual
licking armpits. Just
experience
No.
Yeah,
of the-
exactly.
No, that's
Not
No.
making me really.
The taste buds
Yeah, I was
slowly
being facetious,
sliding
Nate.
over the.
yeah.
There was a whole
Mars Attacks or Metropolis?
metropolis.
Brian wants to move on.
Yeah.
Metropolis.
Metropolis. Mars Attacks or Zootopia?
Zootopia.
Mars
It's
Attacks
kind
gonna
of
be
middle of the road. I think it's
How did
lost
Mars
everything.
Attack? How did
Yeah.
Zootopia end up in the middle? Because I have no idea.
The Mars Attacks.
You can re-rank it, but Mars Attacks is going to be our center movie now.
Mars Attacks is at 243 on our flick chart out of 486.
Really?
It
bad
beat
litmus.
it beat the middle movie,
Yeah,
and then it lost to the middle movie.
Yeah.
So it's in the middle.
that's okay.
So let's see. We're gonna come back. We're gonna tell you what we're watching for the next podcast.
Okay, so we are going to tell you what we're going to be watching on our next podcast. We are continuing with the theme of alien invasion. So I believe Steve, Nate, and Patrick all have picks.
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
Steve, why don't you tell us what you've chosen?
I chose Critters. It was a movie that I watched probably 30 times when I was a kid. I absolutely loved the movie, and I haven't watched it since I was a kid. So,
Ooh.
yeah, I wanted to share it with my daughter. Basically, that's how I pick movies. What do I want my kids to watch?
You say daughter. Which one did you share it with?
Bella.
Only
Bella.
one of them.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bella
okay.
loves that kind of stuff. She's the one who begged me to watch Alien and Aliens.
Right.
Didn't you
Right.
pick Naked Lunch? You wanted to share that with your children?
Yes, I wanted to share Naked Lunch with my children. No, that was Nate's choice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my bad.
So did you have a Johnny Steele poster on your wall, Steve?
Absolutely.
Johnny.
Okay.
With that stupid goddamn song.
I had not watched it. It was one that I had been interested in watching for a long time, but I always thought it was just a Gremlins ripoff. So
Yeah. Well, it had a shitty song written for that movie, and so did Killer Clowns from Outer Space,
Which Brian will not let go.
which nobody else knows because nobody else watched it.
I couldn't.
I-
it didn't.
I saw it a long time ago. I don't remember.
In
I
all
believe you,
fairness,
Brian.
I almost picked that movie when I was trying to come up with something, and I'm like, I am not going to make anybody watch this.
Tom has no qualms.
Killer?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. It's a cult classic, and it actually gets it's rated pretty highly among
Yeah.
film buffs. So, Nate, or not Nate? Yes, Nate. What did you choose for?
Well, since we were choosing alien movies, I went and found the artsiest, fartsiest old alien movie I possibly could that also has a silly title. I chose The Brother from Another Planet,
I think
which
it's one
is
of the best movie titles
about
ever.
yeah, it's about an alien that lands in New York who happens to resemble an African American, and hilarity ensues.
Oh my god, can't get through podcasts.
Ensues.
I don't know if I'd say hilarity.
There's moments of silliness.
Yeah, moments.
There are giggles.
It'll be our second John Sayles movie
Yeah, it'll be our second John Sayles movie.
for Lone Star. And Patrick.
Yeah, I chose Attack the Block. It's an alien invasion movie from Britain. It's only a few years old. About aliens who come down and attack specifically a block, which is a tenement building in fairly lower socioeconomic section of Britain.
You could say slum.
Slum, yes.
It's a little nicer than a slum, but
Yeah, I was gonna say but yes. So
Starring John Boyega.
yes, who went on to Star Wars fame.
after taking a brief period to appear in stock photos.
What?
Really?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So we're not delving too deeply into these because we've already all seen them. Let's not even pretend we haven't. But we are going to be talking about those movies on our next podcast. So join us for that. Also,
Please clap.
Isn't
Fair
most
enough.
salad gluten-free?
They just, I love how they attach gluten-free to anything that was always already gluten. Like,
We've made it.
We saw in
It's
the store the other day
milk.
gluten-free apples. Like they
Yeah.
were actively advertised
Yep.
as gluten-free apples.
exactly.
And it was like next to other apples, like you're wondering if some like devious apple company is like, oh, let's see if we can sell more apples. These
And-
ones aren't gluten-free.
Exactly. Yep. I almost wish they would just go with gluten-friendly or something like that. Like,
for the longest time, they've been just sprinkling gluten on everything. So
Right.
we just don't know.
We really need these apples to kind of stick together more like bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like when they thought cocaine was good for you, you know.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So
You just put it on everything.
Gluten
Really?
and cocaine.
That's some of the best bread I've ever had.